Okay, I think we'll in the interest of time, we'll go ahead and get started. And as Heather said, as you enter, please feel free to share your name, your research area, and something you do for fun in the chat. But otherwise, let's get started. So welcome everybody to part one of our career development and career planning workshop series. My name is Sarah Wojcicki. I'm the Director of Education at the Jackson Laboratory for Genomic Medicine, our Farmington, Connecticut research campus. This session is the first of 3 sessions that are focused on career exploration and planning as part of the Jackson Laboratory's The Whole Scientist series, which is an NIH, NIGMS funded professional development training course for graduate students and postdocs. These sessions are taking place in collaboration with our partners at the GradPathways Institute at UC Davis. Please consider joining us for the remainder of the remaining sessions that will take place on the next 2 Tuesday afternoons from 12 to 3, 12 to 4, depending on the day, Pacific time, or 3 to 6 or 3 to 7 Eastern time. I am so pleased to introduce Heather Dillon, who has been a colleague for several years, and she will be leading all 3 of our career planning workshops over the next 3 weeks. Heather is the Career and Professional Development Program Manager for Postdoctoral and Visiting Student Affairs at the University of California, San Diego. Prior to this role, Heather was the University Relations Specialist for the Jackson Laboratory. Heather has a wealth of experience in career advising and career development and is going to share with you some of her tips, tools, and expertise. So without any further delay, I will turn things over to Heather.
So thanks so much, Sarah, and thank you for having me to talk to you all today about career planning and for the next few weeks. As Sarah mentioned, I oversee the career and professional development programs for the postdocs at UC San Diego. And thank you all for sharing your names, your research areas, and something you do for fun in the chat. I'm hoping to get a better picture of who all is here in the audience. I also shared a little bit about myself. One of the things I enjoy is taking walks on the beach with my dog, Ubi, who's a little dachshund. So that's a lot of fun. So if you want to continue doing that, that would be great. And so as Sarah mentioned, we're going to be taking a journey talking about career planning and preparation over the next 3 weeks. And so starting today, we're going to start with personal reflection. So again, thinking about your skills, values, and interests, and what role this plays in your career planning and your career development. So during the talk today, I'm going to be having you do some self-reflection. So if you want to make sure you have something to write on, so that could be a pen and paper, an electronic document, or a notepad, or something similar. So just make sure you take a second to grab that right now. We'll also be doing some polling, and so you'll need access to a web browser, either on your computer or on your cell phone, either way. So again, make sure you have that handy as well. And before we move on with the content of today's talk, I'd like to pose another question to you. So again, if you can answer this in the chat, or if you feel comfortable, please feel free to unmute and answer verbally. So what role do you think that personal reflection has in career planning? Anyone have any thoughts?
I'm just gonna throw it out there, like maybe just figuring out like what is something you envision like you would do for a long time without getting tired of.
Yep. So yeah, so kind of what is what's something you're gonna enjoy doing, right, long term? Or again, thinking about this as far as what type of career would you like to pursue? So yeah, getting better knowing yourself, what you like and don't like, helps you to narrow down from a truly massive range of careers options, definitely. It helps you evaluate what you're doing currently and getting you towards where you want to go long term. Yeah, so thanks for sharing these. All of these are important points. And yeah, it's really, personal reflection is a first step towards becoming more effective working with others, both one-on-one and as part of a team. And it's also an essential foundation for your career planning. So knowing what you're good at gives you better confidence and a more informed approach to exploring career paths and to creating a plan to get you where you want to go professionally. So that's why today we're going to start this process with some self-assessment. And this is a way to figure out where you want to go in your career. First, to look inward and do some self-reflection and think about your values, what's important to you, your interests, what you like, and your abilities, what you're good at. And so we're going to take some time and do that now. And we're going to start with your abilities. And so your abilities, often also referred to as skills, these are the things that you're good at. And we're going to consider our abilities in 3 general areas. And as I go through these, I'd like you to go ahead and take that piece of paper or that document that you have handy and jot down what you think are your own skills in these different areas. So starting with the one that we often default to or think of first, are subject and knowledge skills. So these are knowledge of specific subjects, procedures, or information that we often acquire through our formal education, training, or on-the-job experience. And you often hear these expressed as nouns. So examples might be dancing, programming, or cell culture. So go ahead and we'll take a couple seconds now, and I'd like you to go ahead and write down a few of your top subject or knowledge skills. And as you continue to do that, I'll move on to the next area where we want to think about our skills, and that's our transferable or functional skills. So these are what you do and how you accomplish tasks. So the specific aptitudes or abilities related to performing a task. And they're often expressed as verbs. So examples might be analyze, collaborate, or manage. So again, we'll take a few more seconds. And if you want to jot down kind of your top, what you feel are your top transferable or functional skills, the specific aptitudes or abilities that you use to perform tasks. All right, and the final area where we'll think about skills and kind of reflect our personal traits and qualities. So these are the specific attributes that enable you to be successful or to do your best work or to help you to achieve your significant accomplishments. So you often hear these expressed as adjectives. So examples might be adaptable, responsible, organized. So again, if you can just take a few seconds and jot down what you feel like are your top personal traits and qualities. And while you're doing that, I'm going to put a link in the chat to a Mentimeter poll where we are going to give you the opportunity to share with each other. This is anonymous, so feel free to share whatever you're comfortable with. And ideally, if you can share, your one from each of these categories. So one subject knowledge skill, one transferable functional skill, and one personal trait or quality that you feel you bring. And so I'm going to put that link in the chat now. It's menti.com, and you'll use the code that's in the chat there, 44001899. And again, you can share as much as you like, but ideally if you can share one of your top skills in each of these areas. So one subject knowledge skill, one transferable functional skill, and one personal trait or quality. So I love all the skills that you guys have come up with. Again, a lot of things related to studying research, but again, that people don't often put words to, right? So being precise, synthesizing information, innovating, being a fast learner, able to adaptable. Having drive or motivation. Project management. I think you had a session on that earlier today. So it's probably top of mind. Just give it a few more seconds for anyone to get in anything else they'd like to share. So, and as you're reviewing these, maybe this is bringing to mind some of the other skills that you may have that didn't first come to mind for you. All right, I'll let people continue to add to that, and we will be doing a couple other Mentimeters, so you can keep that window open as we advance to the other questions in today's presentation. But so, skills are something that we often think of as a place we start. It's also important to consider your interests. That's what you enjoy, what you like to do. And it's important to note that these are different, right? So you can be good at something that you don't really enjoy doing or don't like doing at all. And conversely, you can really enjoy doing something even if you don't do it very well. So these are unrelated topics, and they're important to consider as you think about your career planning and your career future, because ideally you want to do those jobs where you're doing more of the things you like to do and less of the things you don't like to do, even if you may be really good at those things that you don't enjoy doing. So we'll take a minute now. And so if you can just, again, brainstorm, what are those things that you like to do or do for fun? And we started a little bit of this at the start of the talk today in the chat where you were sharing something you do for fun. I'd like you to think about that both, in your free time, but also what you enjoy about your research or what you enjoy about the work that you do. You can also think of this in terms of what do you look forward to doing or what energizes you, what gives you energy. Again, we'll just take a few seconds. You can jot down some of those things that you enjoy. And conversely, I'd like you to also make a list of those things that you don't like. So what are those things that you would choose not to do if you didn't have to, or the things you procrastinate on or avoid doing if you can? Again, we'll take a few seconds if you can jot down some things that you definitely don't like doing or don't want to do or would prefer not to do. All right, now I'd like you to take a look across those two lists you just created, the things you like, the things you don't like, and see if there's some common themes that emerge for you. So, is there something that kind of ties your interests together, or are there similarities between the things that you don't like doing? And kind of make some notes of those. And then we're going to go back to Mentimeter. So again, that same link, same code. If you have it open still, you should be able to go directly there. And we're going to share out what are those themes that you noticed across the things you enjoy or the things you don't like. Or you can also just share some specific examples of things you enjoy or things you don't like.
Heather, it looks like there was a question in the chat
Okay. Yep.
as to whether or not those likes or dislikes should be for your personal likes or dislikes or professional. Can you clarify that?
Yeah, so I think if you can think about it in terms of professional, that would be great. But if you have some, from your personal experience, that's okay too. Those are important to consider as well, because they may also influence, career tasks if you think about it in the long term. So the goal of doing this really is to think about, what are the things that, responsibilities or duties you would like to have as part of your work and part of your job, versus those things you would prefer were not part of your future job or career field. So again, if the things you dislike, you think could be something that could influence something you could do related to work or related to your job, even if they're personal dislikes, you can think about noting those. Hopefully that clarifies. So again, thinking about, what do you like? There's a lot of great things here, connecting with others, specific types of work that you like to do, reading, learning new things. That's again, an important thing to know, that you enjoy, hypothesizing, creating stories, problem solving, the opportunity to be creative or to think creatively. Give it another few seconds for people to add anything else related to their interests. Travel is something I enjoy. We'll look forward to getting back to once, things hopefully sort themselves out in the near future. All right. So we'll move on now to the final area that we'll consider when we're doing their self-reflection, which is values. And these are the things that are important to you. These are often more personal and are subject to a variety of cultural, personal, or family influences. Values are super important, but it's an often area we don't think enough about or don't consider, especially when we're talking about career planning. But the mismatch between your personal values or needs and those of your job or your career field is often the source of the greatest job dissatisfaction and job stress. So this is an area that's really important to think about, both as you're planning your career and also as you're considering, jobs when you're interviewing and thinking about taking on different jobs or different careers. So we're going to think about values in a couple different areas as well. So starting with intrinsic values. So these are the things that internally motivate you and provide you with satisfaction. So examples of this might be helping others or performing at a high level. So you can think about it as like what gets you out of bed in the morning, what drives you internally, and gives you the greatest satisfaction. So again, we'll take a few seconds if you want to jot down what you feel are some of your intrinsic values. So you also want to think about your extrinsic values. So these are the things that you want or need externally to do your best work and to stay engaged. So examples of this might be your physical work environment. Maybe you need a quiet space or private office or things, to do your best work. Conversely, maybe you're somebody who needs to be around a lot of people and wants to be in a team environment where you're interacting with people all the time. And that's the type of environment that you do your best work in. Other examples might be pay or benefits. So maybe you need to make sure you're earning a certain amount to support family members, or, just that you feel valued. If you're, you want to make sure you're being valued at the level monetarily that you feel you deserve. And that's what you need extrinsically. Or there's certain benefits you need, like maybe a flexible work schedule, or, certain, learning credits or things like that you want extrinsically. And specific titles or recognitions are also examples of extrinsic values. So again, take a few seconds and jot down some of the values that are important to you extrinsically. All right, so the final area of values we want to consider are lifestyle values. So these are the personal factors that take priority for you. So examples of this might be being in a location that's near family or near friends, not working on weekends. So again, we'll take a few seconds for you to jot down some of those lifestyle values that are important to you. And then again, we'll go back to Mentimeter and share out with each other those values that are important to us. And like we did for the skills, maybe if you can share one intrinsic, one extrinsic, and one lifestyle value that are important to you. A couple of people noted teamwork or working collaboratively, helping people, having good work-life balance, not working weekends, having opportunities for personal growth, having flexibility or ability to, work flexibly or pursue intellectual freedom, kind of freedom in your work responsibilities. Financial security, that's a great one. Which again, can be, all of these things, again, it's very personal, right? What's most important to you may not be the same as what's most important to other people. And that's why this is, again, something that's important to consider as you're thinking about your career plan and as you're thinking about where you want to go and what types of careers or jobs you want to pursue. So just give it another few seconds for anyone to share anything else that they'd like to. All right, so again, thank you everyone for sharing those out. Now, we did this through self-reflection, which is one of the harder ways to do this process. There are a number of tools and assessments that can help you with evaluating your values, interests, and abilities, and I've highlighted 2 of them here. So My IDP from Science Careers and Imagine PhD. My IDP was designed more with STEM research fields in mind, and Imagine PhD was designed more for humanities and social science fields. However, both assessments are valuable regardless of your research area, and they're both different and provide valuable information and insights. So I encourage you to explore both. They're both completely free to create profiles and take the assessment, see which one kind of resonates with you and you find the most helpful, and then you can use that. They also both have great resources for career exploration, which is where, and finding out information about different careers and career preparation, which we'll get into in the next few talks. But right now we're going to kind of take our self-assessment, and thinking about the goal of going through this process is to help you to determine your priorities, which can help you to figure out the direction you want to head in for your career and help you create the plan that's going to be the best route for you to achieve that ultimate career goal that you're aiming for. So when you're thinking about this, pursuing a career that's at the nexus of that intersection between your values, interests, and your abilities is generally where you're going to be the most fulfilled, and also where you will be the happiest and the most successful. So that's why we go through this process, to help you kind of evaluate that. And so we're going to take some time now to practice using the information we've gleaned from our self-reflection to evaluate career fit. And so to start this process, I'd like you to go ahead and write down, what is your current career goal or a career that's of interest to you? So something you might be interested in learning more about, or you think might be a good fit for you, but you need more information. You're not 100% sure. And so with that career that you've jotted down, go ahead and write down what you think are the skills that are required for that job, and what are the values that are represented in that field or industry. So again, I'll just give you a minute to go ahead and jot those down. All right, so now I'm going to ask you to compare what you've just written down about your career goal or career of interest with the self-assessment that we just did. And then we're going to go into breakout rooms and give you a chance to discuss this with some of your fellow participants. So thinking about this, do you have most of the required skills for the career that you're interested in, or your current career goal? Which skills could you develop to be more competitive? How do the required skills match with what you're interested in actually doing, what you like doing? And does that career field or industry seem to share your values? So I'm going to go ahead and copy these questions into the chat for you, so you'll have those when we go into the breakout rooms. And while I'm doing that, does anyone have any questions about this activity before we go into the breakout rooms? And I saw someone asked about slides. We can definitely make the slides available. All right, if there aren't any questions, then if we're ready, we can go into breakout rooms, and we'll have about 10 minutes for you to share your thoughts with the other participants about your self-evaluation. Welcome back. We got a few more we're waiting for. All right, I think we have everybody back now, so welcome back. So I'd just like to give an opportunity for anyone to share, anything that came up in their breakout room discussions or came up for you personally, kind of going through this assessment, thinking about how your values, interests, and abilities match with your current career goal or the career you think you might be interested in pursuing. You feel free to unmute yourself, or if you'd rather share in the chat, that's fine as well.
I'm going to be the scapegoat for this. We had a very interesting discussion because I think we got to the conclusion that it's not kind of easy to pick like, oh, like this is like the one piece of the puzzle that I'm missing. I'm kind of cheating from the slide here, but it's just, it feels like, because we kind of like went through this other talk also that a person was a project manager, became a project manager after her PhD. And it seems one of the things that she wished to learn was be more diverse in her skill set. And I feel that a lot of careers is just like requires you to be more versatile and more adaptable. And it's just sometimes like, I don't know, like for example, for me, it's like I want to be like I'm a first year, so this bear in mind with me, but it's just I am interested in being like doing research in neurogenetics, but also in the same time it's just like I feel like there's so many things that you need to do, because a lot of, I don't know, it just feels like these are two disciplines, but those two disciplines also interact with a lot of other things, so it feels like I need to gain knowledge in more areas than one. But that's basically what we discussed.
Yeah, no, and that's interesting. And again, it's something to keep in mind too. There's, there's things, and this is why, we'll get into this too, like figuring out what you need to focus on. I had you do this just kind of thinking off the top of your head, but that's where having conversations with people who are in these fields or who are doing the jobs you're considering pursuing and getting advice from them is so valuable, because they can help guide you in, like you said, a lot of times it seems like, okay, there could be a variety of different skills you could develop that could be helpful, and they can talk about like, well, what are the ones that are going to be most beneficial to you, or even thinking personally about yourself, like what are the ones I'm most interested in developing, right? What can I bring to the team to be part of this? And I think that's the other thing to realize about careers too, is that even research and careers outside of academia often are more and more collaborative and integrative, right? And so when you think about that, you don't necessarily have to bring everything for what you're doing. And that's where forming research teams or collaborations, or having these project teams, if you're outside of academia, people bring different expertise. And that's where, working together and working with others, you each contribute to the final outcome and to what you're working on, but you don't have to be the master or the expert of everything. So Ed, let me know if I misunderstood your question or if that helps clarify some things. But yeah, I think, this is, and we also are just scratching the surface today, right? So we did a very quick exercise as an introduction to this, but obviously, this is something that would be beneficial for you to spend some more time thinking about and more time discussing and reflecting on, to figure out what are your priorities for your current training in your grad or your postdoc work, to get you to be in a place where you're going to be successful to transition to that next stage of your career, whatever that is that you want to be pursuing. So I got a couple things in the chat that have come in. So again, thinking about, and then I think this is often the case for a lot of people, is like you have a lot of technical skills, But we often neglect those transferable or, other types of skills like management, collaboration skills, which are so important in a lot of different careers. So taking time to actually develop those other skill sets, especially when you think about where you want to go with your work and with your career, is so important. We had another comment that thinking about lab environment, or again, any workplace environment, is so important for your mental health and for your job satisfaction. So, and this is again, something I think we can often have blinders on. We can think about, oh, I just want to make sure that I'm working on X or I'm doing X. And for some people that's fine, but it's knowing yourself and knowing what's important to you. And for a lot of people, the environment you work in, being around people who you feel comfortable with, who you want to be around, and that you feel safe and secure and valued within that environment is equally important as the actual work that you're doing. And so it's, again, being aware of yourself. And if you can think about, if you were in environments where you didn't feel comfortable or you weren't enjoying what you were doing, a lot of times you can point it back to a mismatch in values, or again, that environmental factors that were not working for you. It may not have been the specific, tasks you were asked to do, but it was that environment that you found not compatible with your enjoyment. Any other thoughts?
In my group, there were several people who thought that their interests and skills aligned with being a PI, but we were unsure if our values really aligned with that, and some of the sacrifices you have to make to stay in academia and to succeed in academia it's quite demanding. And so there are a few of us who like research and like the idea of being a PI, but aren't sure if we're willing to make some of those sacrifices that it seems that we need to be successful.
Yeah, and I think that's important to realize and to think about, and maybe something where you want to do some more investigating into that. Again, talking to people, talking to researchers. Maybe you can identify researchers who seem to be having the lifestyle, or that have careers that seem more in alignment with the values you'd like to have, and see how they accomplish that, right? Or thinking about, are there other types of research careers, maybe outside of academia, that may be more aligned with the values that are important to you? So I think both of those, and that kind of transitions nicely to where I'd like to close out for today. So as I said, we had you go through this process by self-reflecting, but really, like, how do you know what are the skills that are important for a job? What are the values in that industry? What are some ways that you can actually find that out? And so if let's put that out there in the chat. What do you guys think? Or again, if you want to unmute yourself and say, how do you know what are the skills required for a job, or the values for a field, that they match with what you're looking for? So Lee says informational interviews, definitely, talking to people.
I think when you get an interview, really being strategic about what questions you ask the people who are interviewing you, to make sure that you're asking the questions to get the answers to kind of these key areas that you want to learn about.
Yeah, that's a great point. So again, like a lot of people asking people who are in the job, or you get to the stage where you're interviewing, this is where the self-reflection and being knowledgeable about yourself and what you're looking for and what's important to you can be so helpful for you to come up with those questions that you need to ask during the interview process if you haven't been able to find that information in another way, or again, to ensure that that job is a good fit for you. A lot of times we think, interviewing, obviously they're evaluating you, but it's also an opportunity for you to evaluate them. And often we forget that component of it, and that we do have the opportunity to ask, and we should ask, especially those things that we need to know or want to know to make that determination about whether to take that job if we get that job offer. Yeah, so definitely you guys hit right to the core of it, because a lot of people will start with online resources, which are great and can give you a lot of information, But really the key to this is to actually talk to people who are in that field. So we hit on informational interviewing, but again, talking to people, there are other opportunities you have to talk to people in that career field or in that job. And all of this comes down to basically networking, right? And this is what we're going to be talking about in the session next week. So for next week, I have some assignments that I'd like you guys to chew on and think about in preparation for next week's session. So I'd like to encourage you all to complete one of those online assessments if you haven't done this already, or if you've done one, go back in, check it out, and kind of refresh your memory of what you did through that online assessment. So again, I would suggest doing either the MyIDP assessment or the Imagine PhD assessment. Like I said, both are free and both are slightly different. So if you have time, check out both of them and see which one kind of works best for you. And then using what you've learned from your self-reflection today and also from taking those online assessments, I'd like you to spend some time thinking about how you might use those insights to inform your career exploration or your career planning or your career search. You know, you talked about like interviewing and putting together your career materials. So spend some time thinking about that. And then also brainstorm ways that you could learn more about your career of interest, to either evaluate your fit for that career or to prepare yourself for applying and interviewing for positions in that field. So go ahead and make a list of people you could talk to, maybe events you could attend, or other research you could do to help you get more information and to be better prepared and informed. And so with that, I'd love to open it up for any questions anyone has. And thank you all for your time. And I hope to see you back next week for part 2.
Any questions for Heather? All right, so we just want to remind everybody, and we've put this in the chat, that we have additional The Whole Scientist workshop sessions coming up next Tuesday, May 25th, as well as the following Tuesday, June 1st, including the next 2 sessions of Heather's career and professional career planning and career development series. So please, using the links in the chat, go ahead and sign up for those future sessions there. And please also take some time to complete our brief survey to give us some feedback on this session. But for now, we will depart, and we hope to see everybody next week. Thank you.